Okay, welcome everybody. This is Seesaw 101. I do want to keep it sort of informal. So if you have questions, feel free to post them in the chat, and Teresa Castellaw or Donna Wells will either interrupt me or send me a message, and we'll talk about your questions as we go along. I did post a link to this slideshow in the chat, so you can open it yourself and follow along, or save it and talk about it later. So I'm going to assume that most of us that are in this class are sort of just getting started. So I apologize if you're a little bit farther along than just getting started. Feel free to tune in when it's something you're interested in hearing about. One of the things I like to remind people is that Seesaw is built to be a portfolio for the students, the parents, and the teachers to interact in a way where they're sharing work and working together as a team to build something that the students would want to keep. It's not just a file cabinet or a way to pass things back and forth between the student and the teacher. So the idea is to build a portfolio over time. Our school system is paying for it, so these portfolios, if the students are added correctly, will stay with them the entire time they're in our K-5 system. Basically, the way it works, the teacher browses the library and chooses an activity, or they could create their own. They share that activity with their class. The students respond using the tools that are part of the Seesaw program, or they can smash apps and do an activity with some other program and send it in through Seesaw. The teacher is supposed to review the student's work and provide some feedback. It can be auditory feedback, especially for younger people. Could be stickers added to the page, could be comments at the bottom, or it could just be that the teacher approves it and then it's posted to the student's portfolio. Once it's posted and reviewed by the teacher, then the families can see that in the family app, and they have the option of posting likes or other comments along with it. So that's sort of the cycle of how Seesaw works. One of the things I have heard from people is, oh, this is so hard, I can't build my own activities. So I wanted to make sure to start with the fact that there are lots and lots and lots of activities in what's called the activity library. So this page is talking a little bit about the 3 different libraries. When you build activities, they're going to stay in your library. There is also a school library or a district library, since we pay for Seesaw for schools. And then there's the Seesaw Community Library. And you can borrow activities from any of those 3 places or use activities from any of those 3 places. You can filter by grade and subject and do a search. When you are looking at an activity, I think if it's not yours, and Donna or Teresa, tell me if I'm wrong, and you're just choosing it from the library, you are supposed to click the like, and then it comes in, or you could copy and edit from that, that library to make it yours. The nice thing about it is that when you borrow an activity, you don't have to assign it to the kids the way it is. You can edit the images, the directions, you can add pages to the student template, you can add audio directions that are yours instead of somebody else's voice before you click on assign. On page 6 or slide 6 in your slideshow, this comes right from Seesaw, and they have their own step-by-step directions on how to create an activity. So if you were to click here, you would see the slideshow created by Seesaw that leads you step-by-step how to create an activity. There's also a linked webinar where you can watch and see how to do it with a video tutorial. I found out something yesterday after all these years of using Seesaw. A lot of times people will either use a PDF or images to build their activity. And I'm going to demonstrate this in just a minute, but I wanted to mention something that I learned. I use screenshots, and I use command keys on my keyboard like Command Shift 4 and Command Shift 5 on my version of the iOS program on my machine. That's how I do a screenshot. But I discovered during getting ready for this training that there is a Chrome extension you could add that's called Reflect in Seesaw that made it even easier than what I've been doing all these years. So we've talked a little bit about how to create an activity. So I want to stop there and just very quickly make something to demonstrate. So I am going to go back to my class. And if I wanted to start creating an activity, I would just click Add. and assign activity. And it takes me directly to the library. So I could pick an activity that's already been designed and saved into my library, like I said, the school or district library or the community library. If I want to make something of my own, I go back to my library and click on Create an Activity. Okay, if I wanted to build an activity, I would click on Add Activity. It pulls in my own library. I'm going to click on Add. I'm going to name the activity in just a moment because I'm going to be pulling in a PDF as the student template, and that PDF will help me remember what I want to call this activity. So I'm going to skip the naming, the directions, my voice instructions, and any multimedia links until I get the template for students added first. So I'm clicking here and I'm going to upload a PDF. That's how I'm going to start this activity. So I have saved Alexia Skill Builder from the Lexia site as a PDF, and it will come in and automatically put each of the pages that was in that Skill Builder in order on the pages in my Seesaw activity. I don't necessarily need this page, but it does tell me the title. So I'm going to call this Lesson Core 5, Lesson 8, Silent E Construction. So right now I'm going to close my template and come back to that in just a minute and start working on the title. One of the things that we discovered just this week is it's a good idea to put the date that you want that activity posted to the students. So today is October 2nd, so I'm just going to put 10/7/20, and then I'm going to start to type my directions. I'll pause this video and add my directions in just a minute. We'll be back. Okay, I've spent a few minutes getting the directions typed in, and I've also recorded the audio that goes along with these directions. What I haven't done yet is add the multimedia instructions or video for an example. I went to YouTube and I searched for vowel consonant E or long vowel E, and this is one of the videos that came up. I've already previewed it, and it's a great review if students needed it to help with this activity. So I am going to click on Share, copy that video link, go back to my Seesaw page and add that as an example of something the families or the students could watch if they're stuck and need a little more help with this activity. Remember that the video example is part of the directions. This is not what the kids work on. That's just what's going to be over here to the left when it's published. Now I'm ready to finish typing the title of my lesson. I wanted my title to match the worksheets that I borrowed or downloaded from Lexia. Remember, I loaded those as a PDF, so the pages came in. I don't need this page, so I'm going to delete it. And at this point, while making the video, I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to add a page at the end, and on that page, I am going to upload a sound item, a sound icon that I have saved previously. There it is. And I'm going to make it giant. I do this quite often so that I can record on this page. I would either have the PDF pulled up on another device, or I would shrink my screen so I could see both, because when I'm doing my recording, I want to record on this page so that what the recording is on top of is this image. So when I'm ready to record, I'm on my extra page with this giant sound icon, and I click on the microphone and I record the directions for page 1. Circle the correct word to complete each sentence. Then write the word on the line. You could use your pencil tool or your label tool to type the word. Read the sentences out loud, but since this is a reading activity and it's the end of a Lexia lesson and it's a skill builder, I'm assuming the words on this page are words that these children should be able to read on their own. That's the idea for them to practice the reading. Once I've made that recording and I hit done, which I don't really like this recording since I forgot and kept talking, I would shrink this recording that appears on top of that giant speaker and use the keys Command X to cut the recording and put it on this page small. Whoops.
up here toward the top so the students get used to being able to click on this and hear my directions out loud. Okay, then I would do the same thing for each of the other pages. After I have my video recordings on each of the pages for the directions on that page, I don't need this last page any longer. So I would simply click on the 3 dots and delete that page. That's how you would use a PDF to build an activity in Seesaw. Okay, if I wanted to show you how to create a Seesaw activity by editing the previous one that I've already made, uploading PDFs, and this time I'm going to use screenshots. I'm going to go to my activities page and browse the library because I already have this activity in my own library. So I'm going to go to the one that I just made, and I'm going to click down here on Edit Activity. I've already taken out the student template because I wanted to show you how you could add screenshots as an upload to your activity. So I would open this PDF that I downloaded, and I would have the page showing. This is a little too big on my screen, so I'm going to hold down the Command and the minus key to make it small enough. And on my computer, I can do Command-Shift-5. Some people it's Command-Shift-4, and I can put this little rectangle around the parts of the page that I want to take a copy of. And since I'm not uploading the whole PDF, I can decide which parts I want to capture. I'm just going to capture the worksheet part. Scroll up, Command-Shift-5, do the same thing for this part. I can close my PDF, close my Finder, and I'm back to my Seesaw activity. This is where I would have clicked on Add Student Template. I'm going to click on Upload and select from my computer. The screenshots on my computer go to Documents. Yours might go to Downloads, or they might go to Desktops. You'd have to find the screenshots you took, and pull them in. They don't always come in the order that they were taken. So I'm going to use these arrows to move the 2 together that are similar, and then these 2 at the end. Now it will go in the order that they are. This is, oops, I'm on my drawing tool, so I just put a blue dot. If I want to move this around or unlock it or change it, I would click on the 3 dots. I'm not going to unlock it though. I could. Sometimes I don't necessarily want it to fill up the whole page. I want to make it a little smaller so there's some room around the picture. And some students have a hard time getting the tools out of the way, so to me, it's helpful to move that over a little bit. If I wanted to, I could actually get both pages of the same kind onto the same sheet. Take it off of there and put it onto here. So both activities that are similar on the same page. Since it's not a PDF, it's an image, I could stack them together on the same page. And then I wouldn't need page 2. I could go ahead and add my sound, icon. Again, to the last page so I can record my directions.
If they're having trouble doing screenshots, to go to this page, it's in the Chrome extension store, and when you add it, it comes up, and like here's a picture example. If I wanted a picture of this article that the students are going to read, I would have my Seesaw activity open with an empty page ready for it to land on, and when you take the screenshot, it automatically jumps into any activity you already have open. If you don't have an activity open, it's going to take you to the sign-in page, and it's going to ask you to sign in, and then it's just going to make it like a post that photo would land on, and then it would be ready for you to continue building.
Okay, this time I'm going to talk about how to use the Reflect in Seesaw Chrome extension. I've already loaded it, so it's here. When I am choosing the activity that I want to take to use this extension for to get the images, I would already have my activity started, have my instructional video link there, have the directions and everything there, have empty pages ready to use. So I am going to edit this activity, and the template is here, but it has blank pages. I want to add worksheet pages to these first 2 pages of the activity. The worksheet pages have to be on the internet. They have to be something I can get to in Google Chrome. So I downloaded these pages as a PDF, and I shared that with you earlier. The PDF is right here. I got it from Lexia, but I have to have that PDF loaded on Chrome. So what I did is make a folder in my drive that is called Lexia Skills Builder Pages, and that folder, I changed the permission. So when I click on the folder and I click on share, I'm going to have it open to anyone with the link. That means students would be able to come back to that link if they needed to. The reason is I just did this earlier, and I linked it to, or I used the screen extension to the Lexia pages actually on the teacher, and that took them back to that teacher page. So now I know this is what I want. I want to use my Chrome extension, Reflect in Seesaw, to capture the area. And it's going to, instead of saving it to my drive and me having to upload it to Seesaw, it's actually going to put it right onto the page. I can resize it. It's not locked when it comes in. I can put it whatever I want to on the page, and I'm going to go ahead and put both of these worksheets on the same activity page in Seesaw. So I'm going to go back and do it again. Scroll up to the next page. Click on Reflect in Seesaw. And I am going to capture just the part of the page I want. It jumps in on top of the other page and resizes things a little bit. But if I get them to be the same size, I can work on it to get them the way I would like them to look. And then I can lock each of these in place so they won't move. And I would do the same thing for the next 2 pages. Scroll up, click on Reflect in Seesaw. Resize the image that comes in. So it fits on the page. And one thing I didn't realize until now is that it actually puts a link back to where this came from. So it's going to link the kids back to my Google Drive. It's not a problem because that Google Drive is only that one folder in my drive is going to be accessible to students. Now I have all the pages laid out the way I want to. I have the sound icons there ready to repeat the directions if needed. I'm ready to save that assignment and assign it to students.
Start from scratch. One of the things that I wanted to make sure and talk about is that when you're building an activity, the parts at the top are what I would consider directions. You're going to name the activity. You're going to type in your directions. And on the slideshow, one of the things I talked about is the Seesaw shortcuts. Some of the people that are new at this might or might not have access to these shortcuts, but I put a link in there that takes you to a printable page you could save a copy of, or you could come back to, or you could just do a search to find these shortcuts. But if I want to include those labels in my directions, I'm just going to type the word inside of colons. So when I hit click add, whoops, if I spell it right, and a colon. When I save that activity, instead of seeing the word add, the student should see the directions. If I were to add a multimedia instructions or example, that is part of the directions. So I could add a video there. I could add a video of myself showing the kids how to do the activity, or I could add a link to something else. In my class, I have a couple of examples. For instance, this activity, when they open it, under the instructions page, this picture is there. That's what's been added, is an image for them to look at. That's the multimedia directions. It comes on the first page that the students work on, and that's what they're looking at. They're supposed to click on that. If this was like a Bitmoji classroom or something, they could click on the activities. It would be links right to that activity or that assignment that they're supposed to go to. This one, on this activity, what I've done is I've made the assignment and I have the pages there that they're supposed to work on, but in my directions, I actually have a video linked of me doing the work. So if they open it, it's going to be a Loom video that I made, and they can sit and watch the directions of how to do the assignment themselves.
Hello, boys and girls.
So it's just me talking, it's showing them how to get logged in, and that is the multimedia part of the assignment. If I close that, then they go back to their work and they have the 3 pages that they're supposed to work on. So my multimedia directions are part of the instructions. That is not the part that the students work on. We've had some people beginning to create activities, and they accidentally post the student's template in the part of the creation that's supposed to be up here at the top. This is part of the directions. This is a video or something that's supposed to help the students complete the work. And then the second part that the students work on, the template the students work on, would be over here on the side, the pages that they're going to go to and they're going to actually do their work on. I'm going to go back to my slideshow. A couple things that are in the slideshow. If you create the activity and you put your title and your directions and your multimedia part, but you do not attach a student template, that means that when the students click on this and they hit add response, then what they're going to see is this page. They're going to get to choose how to respond. They could respond with a video, they could respond with a drawing or a photo, they could upload things from their own drive. So when you're creating, if you don't attach a template, it's up to the student to decide how they're going to respond. Now, maybe you're going to tell them in the directions to open the drawing and draw a picture of something that something that happened in the story, or you're going to tell them if it were a music lesson that they're going to use their recorder to play a song and videotape themselves playing that song. So when you don't attach a template to an activity, the students see this page when they add a response and they choose whichever activity or whichever way they want to respond to it. If you do add the template, then what happens is the students get the pictures or the images or the PDF that you share with them, and they have the tools that they can draw on top of whatever it was that was there. They can still do videos, they can still record themselves talking, but that image that you put on the pages would be behind the drawing. Oh, okay, that's right. Donna's reminding me that one of the things we discovered lately, especially with our virtual students who are getting all their work online, is I didn't realize, and the teacher I was talking with didn't realize, that if you don't put the date in the title of the assignment, students don't really know what day that was assigned. That should change shortly. There's going to be an update to Seesaw any moment, hopefully. It was supposed to happen in mid-September, but it hasn't been turned on yet, so that students would have a calendar in their activity feed where it would have a date and it would show which activities were assigned that date. Teachers, when you look back, you can see on, I can see this down here. It tells them that, it tells me as a teacher that this was assigned on. We were told by a teacher and also by a parent that when the child clicks on it, all they see is add response. And for instance, this activity right here that's called I Spy the letter A, they don't know what day that was assigned on. This particular parent in Virtual Academy was getting confused about which assignments they're supposed to do which days. And he said, things just show up at night and we have like 21 things we're supposed to do. Well, this particular student is behind in Virtual Academy, and the teacher was trying to explain to them, if it's been assigned by your teacher and it's under activities, it should be done that day, or it will start to get longer. If I haven't responded as a student to any of these activities, they're going to stay in my feed until I add the response and turn it in as checked off. Then that activity would disappear from my feed. So one of the suggestions was, when you're creating your activity, to put the date and then the title of the activity. Now, eventually, when this update happens, there will be a calendar at the top of the activities page. In Seesaw101, we're going to talk about this in just a minute. The journal has a calendar already, and this calendar, as a teacher, shows me when things were turned in. So if I click on yesterday, one thing was turned in yesterday by the sample student. If I were a real teacher, I would have all the things that were posted that day and reviewed by me. Students can also see that. They have a calendar, but it's on their journal feed. So it's only going to show the things that they turned in those days. The update is supposed to happen, and what would happen is at the top of this activities feed, there would also be a calendar. Or I think I've seen some photos of what it's supposed to look like, and instead of just scheduled and archived, there would be a place to click on calendar.
Here's a screenshot that shows what it looks like to a student. If you notice, there is no date down below that gray bar where the add response is. On the teacher's account or on a student account on a MacBook, it does show the date that the student or that the teacher posted that activity. But on an iPad, students only see the title, the directions, etc., and the place to add a response. So it would be a good idea to add the date in the title of the activity if your students are using iPads. That way families would know when it was actually assigned.
Any other questions about posting activities at this point? Okay, one of the suggestions was, we quite often make similar activities. Like, for instance, if you're using, and I'm going to keep using elementary teachers, if you're making math activities, you might have the same type of activities with just different questions on the page. So one of the things that is suggested is to actually make your own template. So this is an activity that I made, and my pages are blank. It already has the directions that are sort of generic for what I would want students to do. It has my audio directions. And then when I go to the student template, all I'm going to have to do is add some pages, add the images. So let me go back and demonstrate that pretty quickly. It should be here. Whoops, instead of that, I want to click at the top. And so if I edit this activity and make a copy, then I can change the title. So it's Eureka Math, and so I would take out template and I would put module 4, lesson 12. And of course, I'm going to spell things wrong while I'm on here. My directions are already there. My audio directions are already there. And then all I'm going to do is come to my template. And what I have is I have a place to add the images. So I could go to my computer, and I might not be really good at this. I got 8 million screenshots, but let's just pretend that I'm going to be lucky and I'm going to come up with an actual math problem. Oh, look at that. I was lucky. Here comes my image. I'm going to resize it, put it in place, and lock it. And then I'm ready for the students to actually work on this page. I'm not going to save because I don't want to mess up my template, but what I can do is I can use this same template over and over again, and I don't have to start from scratch. The pages are already set up. I just quickly drop in whatever 2 or 3 math problems or 3 or 4 sections of math problems, and then I can go on. If you build an activity and you use a PDF instead, and I'm probably not going to be able to find a PDF really fast. And I upload a file. I search my computer. Okay, this isn't exactly what I would want, but it is a PDF. It automatically makes pages for each of the PDF pages that I had. And they're already locked. The other thing that I think will happen is when I save this activity, when the students see it at the bottom of, when they add this PDF, it'll say something at the bottom. Sometimes it says view original, and they can click at the bottom and then take it back to the original PDF. And that doesn't happen if you add images instead of a PDF.
One other difference between posting with a PDF instead of pictures is that when it posts, sometimes the students would see these two images down here at the bottom where it says view original or view Google Doc. They can just sit down there at the bottom and the students can do the work like normal in Seesaw, but if they wanted to, they could click on either one of those and the original document or the Google Doc would open. If I click on view original, although you can't see all of it right now, it does open up the original PDF that was attached to the file. If I click on view Google Doc, it actually opens up the slideshow of the pages that are now in this Seesaw activity. Both of these are open on top of the original Seesaw activity, like an extra window opens. If they were on an iPad, they'd have to push the home button to close that extra window to get back to their Seesaw assignment.
You can also create in other programs and then make either screenshots or PDFs from those programs. Occasionally, I will build in Google Slides or Google Drawings so that I have the option of building the pages the way I want to and then copying the whole thing and bringing it in as a template. A good example of that is my phonics activities. So in my multimedia directions, I have a link to a game where they could practice their sight words. I built these pages in Google Slides.
And it just depends. That's a
And this
great
is
thing.
an erasable,
Having as
like
many
seek and
problems
find.
with
So what the
Alzheimer's
kids are
is
supposed to
not
do is turn on their microphone
social emotion,
and record themselves as they uncover the words. They just say it out loud. The, to. But the reason that I'm demonstrating this is that I wanted to show you that what I did in Google Slides is I made a page, a slide that was red, and I put these hexagons on there and I typed my words in and I brought the whole thing in as an image. But I built it in Slides to make it easier to build, and then all I did in Seesaw is add the coloring on top. Okay. That's an example of how a kid would add their own recording. So it recorded the page they were on. Teachers can do the same thing, just like I did with that speaker, and then they could add different videos down at the bottom to demonstrate. And record themselves as they uncover the word. Of course, you wouldn't want to leave that on there. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense about why you might want to build your activity in something like Slides, Drawing, or Canva. You can lay it out the way you want, and then you either export it as a PDF and add it into your slideshow, or you take pictures of the page. And that way, when it comes into the activity, all that background stuff is already there and it just locks down as one image. This is talking about if you use Slides, what I was just talking about, you can download it as either a JPEG or a PDF, which makes it easier to pull in to the Seesaw activity. Everything that's on a template is going to come in and stick down like glue, and it's supposed to be not movable, but you can unlock things and make them movable. For instance, when this was brought in, it was probably full size. It probably filled up the whole page, and what I did is unlock it and then resize it so I had room to put the directions on top of the page. Then before I send it to the students, I would lock it again so that when they're erasing or when they're moving around, they're not moving that template. It's locked in place. I wanted to make sure that you knew about a couple of places where you could get some help. This website is the help desk for Seesaw. There's also mini trainings on YouTube that are called Beyond the Basics. They're like 5 or 6 minute videos that you could go to that would tell you a little bit more about different parts of Seesaw. If you are just beginning, I would highly recommend taking what they call the Seesaw Pioneer Training course. And if you click on this link, it's a 1-hour course that leads you through several things that the Seesaw creators feel are important when you're just getting started. And then once you finish that 1-hour course, there are other courses, quite a few other ones. I listed them on here. After the 1 hour, you can pick from trainings in all these different topics, and each of them would provide a certificate that you could get credit for. You would just have to submit that certificate at the end of each. It's all part of what they are calling, on here somewhere, the Seesaw Community Learning Hub. So if you click on this link, it'll take you to their learning hub. If you haven't done any courses, they're going to ask you to start with that Seesaw Pioneer Training one. We are asking you to help build and share, and maybe you've done this before, but once you create an activity, as the creator of that activity, you can choose to share it with a teacher by copying this teacher link and just sending it an email to a friend. You could share on social media. I don't usually do that, but some people do. There is a Seesaw Facebook group for teachers that I get a lot of ideas and suggestions, and the questions come in, and millions of people across the world answer. And then we also have the district libraries. So if you've created something that you think is worth sharing, and lots of them are, we're encouraging you to add those to the district library. There are other ways to share collections. For instance, I know in our cyber teaching remote course this summer, some of you may have noticed I've created the sight words that I showed you. I have a Wakelet posted that has all the Rainbow Sight Words activities, and basically it's a quick way to share several activities that all fit together in a group. There are also other people out there that are sharing tons of things. These two ITFs, this one's an ITF now, have made a template of pages that you could use that actually open as a Seesaw activity. So the templates just look like a blank page, like maybe you want to do a beginning, middle, end, and you could do a screenshot and build your own activity, or if you click over here, it actually has a link that would take you into an activity he's made, and all you have to do is save the activity and then modify it for whatever you want your students to do. So this particular collection, I think there were over 700 pages of different templates that could be used for a variety of purposes in an elementary classroom. This collection is from the public schools in Billings, and they've saved theirs as a Google Sheet. And at the bottom of the sheet, there are subjects or topics for grade levels. I think there might actually be, no, in a grade level, it might be divided out. Yeah, that's where the categories come up. So there are some for digital citizenship. I know there's some for music, social studies, other things, but then you would click on this link and it would take you to that activity that you could add for your own classroom. This page is just a list of links. It takes you to the Help Center. The Facebook group is a closed Seesaw Facebook group, so if you haven't been there before, the first time you join, they're going to ask who you are. They're probably going to make you tell a little bit about your school. I'm not sure. The Seesaw Learning Community is where you would go for the Pioneer program or other trainings if you wanted. This is the Seesaw YouTube channel, and that's where those short Beyond the Basic videos are, but there's also other videos. I do want to caution that you should look at the age that the video was posted. The YouTube channel has videos back from, like, I looked yesterday for a video and it was from 2017. It was a great video, but Seesaw's had several updates since that video was posted. So the video I was trying to watch didn't really match the way Seesaw's working at the current time. Donna Wells shared this with us, which is helpful. This does post to Facebook, but it's a collection of tips, short, quick answers to things if you had a question about. And these are all in one collection. It looks like it's being updated by one of the Seesaw administrators, or maybe more than one. But that's also linked in your slideshow. And then I did mention that there is an update coming. I do know that my iPad at the current moment is already running version 7.5. Donna Wells and I were talking this morning, and I think what has to happen next is when Seesaw's ready, they'll push a magic button and these options will switch on. That option to having a calendar on the activities page that would help students know which activities were posted each day. This is another feature that I'm looking forward to, the idea that you could pin an activity to the top of the feed. So if, for instance, like your daily check-in that the kids are going to have to do each day, you could post it and it would make it stay up at the top of the activity feed. You can also pin one post to the top of the journal and then some other updates.